So we have seen how God is a God of covenants. When he speaks, his word is covenantal. And when humanity comes into agreement with his words, they flourish and are full of life. They trust his good governance, and identity, protection and provision follows. But when humanity resists those words, death and destruction come in every form to the human condition. Blessing simply means the impartation of life, fullness of life, and curses the impartation of death. The people are in agreement. Yes, they've seen Moses twice now with the 10 words, the 10 commandments, and they are choosing to come under God's good governance by choosing to agree to obey the requirements of the law given through Moses at Sinai. They are ready to take the promised land. Moses sends out 12 spies, 2 Joshua and Caleb, and then 10 other leaders of the 10 other tribes. They all go in, and for 40 days they scout out the promised land. They come back, and tragically 10 of them are too fearful and too discouraged to enter in. They describe the land as full of giants that God himself is unable to overthrow through them. Whereas Joshua and Caleb are confident in God's good promises. They are confident with his calling and his covenant faithfulness. They can enter into and take the land that God has promised to their ancestors, God, Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. But the people are so fearful and discouraged, they almost rise up and kill Joshua and Caleb out of their fear. And God intervenes. He rebukes the people and he says, for the 40 days you spied out the land and didn't have the faith to enter in, until you, the generation that have seen the most miraculous signs in Egypt, the most miraculous deliverance through the Red Sea and this wonderful giving of the law at Sinai, have died, and the children who experienced those signs have risen up and are adults and ready to take the land. So they wander for 40 years in the desert until they all die out, and during that time they are provided for with manna from heaven. Literally, what is it? A kind of bread from heaven, meat when they need it, and water from rock when they need it. And they come to the brink of their promised land. 40 years later, under Moses, on the plains of Moab, God gives the second law, the repeated law, the Deuteronos, from which we get the word Deuteronomy. And in a sense, the whole book is like one covenant document. And it has clear covenant partners and a clear outcome. Blessings for obedience and curses for disobedience. And so they come here on the brink of the promised land, having all those laws renewed, and they say, yes, we want to enter in. Yes, we want to receive the blessing by choosing to come under God's good governance and receive his protection, provision and identity. However, there is one man amongst them who is still alive, fit, well and healthy at 120 years old, 40 years a prince of Egypt, 40 years a shepherd of sheep in the wilderness, and 40 years leading the people of Israel to the promised land, and he is forbidden to enter in. Because God commanded him to speak to the rock when the people wanted water. Moses was used to using his staff to perform miraculous signs, and on this occasion he still does. He strikes the rock twice. Water does gush out, but God says to Moses, because you've not represented me. In a sense, Moses himself didn't have the faith to believe in the spoken word to produce water. He himself was forbidden from entering into the promised land. And I think there is something symbolic in that Moses, the mediator of the great and glorious law of Sinai, the one who led the people out of an extraordinary, oppressive slavery into freedom and deliverance as a new nation, Moses was unable to lead the people into the promised land because his successor Joshua, in a sense, was the type of the one to come, a new Joshua. Only maybe he could take the people into the restoration of the human condition that the law of Sinai was seeking to recover. Joshua is the same root word, Yeshua, from which we get Jesus, means saviour, wholeness, restoration. And we can see Jesus everywhere in the giving of the law at Sinai. We can see that he is the great high priest and he permanently intercedes for us. He is the bread of life, he is the light of the world, he is the basin of cleansing, he is the mercy seat on which we sit. And he is the tabernacle. The tabernacle, unusual for a portable shrine of worship in the ancient Near Middle East, was made of very ordinary animal material on the outside, but inside was pure gold. Similarly, Yahweh comes in human form, in the ordinary materiality of humanity, but inside hosting the very presence of God. Of those great festivals that were inaugurated through the law at Sinai, Passover or Pesach, Shavuot or the first fruits, and then tabernacles, Sukkot or shelters, the ingathering of the harvest, we will see how Jesus fulfills them all. But for the moment, we leave the young children of Israel, now grown up as adults, ready with Joshua, keen and excited to come and enter into and take the tribal lands assigned to them, their promised land, promised to Abraham, Isaac and Jacob by a God who is faithful to his covenant promises.